everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It's Friday morning and football is back tomorrow. I cannot wait. It's time to put this international break behind us and get focused on football with the players that actually want to play for Manchester United and are actually putting in all the hard work to do so, getting behind Erik ten Hag, and also Erik ten Hag's press conference today. Mark's doing that in the afternoon. I think it'll be around 1:30. That is going to be the biggest press conference I've looked forward to in years, genuinely years. I cannot wait for that. But we've got loads of stuff to get into this morning. Jadon Sancho, I've not been on the show for a couple of days, so I've not really been able to have my say. I've got a lot to talk about. I've got a lot to say to people online that seem to have very big double standards between Manchester United and other teams. You know, when Pep Guardiola gets rid of players, nobody says anything then, but when Jadon Sancho doesn't turn up on time for 350 grand a week and refuses to apologise, apparently Ten Hag's the worst manager ever and he's treating him horribly. We'll get into all that. We'll get into the discussion. Injuries, who Ten Hag's wanting to start tomorrow. We've got loads of news to get into, but welcome everybody to the show. It is Friday morning and I'm excited. I'm excited for football. Football is back. And even though Man United have had probably one of the worst international breaks off the pitch, on the pitch our players have actually been quite good. Off the pitch, the issues just are haunting Erik ten Hag and haunting this Man United team and everything around it. And it's time to get positive and focus on football. I tweeted out yesterday, I said, you know what? Amazon have dropped the ball. Whoever is the producer that signs different football teams up to this all or nothing series, they have dropped the ball not getting Manchester United on this season. I know we spoke loads of times before saying Man United would never do all or nothing. They'd never expose what goes on behind the scenes because, you know, we all know it's not good. But for the right check they would have, and I reckon, you know, Amazon are thinking we should have paid the big money. They would have had to extend the series. Usually it's around 10 episodes. They would have had to make it like a 20-parter. They would have already filled that by now. And what, we're only in September. They've dropped the ball massively, not signing United up to all or nothing. You've always got next year because something will happen. But yeah, let's get into it with Jadon Sancho. And I'm not going to hold back on my opinion on this one because I held back for a while on talking about Sancho and the disappointment I had in his performances. But I'm not going to hold back when someone doesn't have the right behaviours, so we'll speak about that. Matthew James Whelan says, had first son with beautiful wife on the 31st of August. What a true blessing. Oh, Matthew. Very big congratulations from me and the whole United Stand team on your son being born. And you know what, that is an amazing thing and hopefully has a great life with you guys. So yeah, congratulations on that one. But let's get into it. So, coming from Sammy Mockbell from the Daily Mail, he says, Man United have given Erik ten Hag total support and are not pressuring him to back down. The manager is said to feel wronged and decided to take a tough stance by axing Sancho from training. Everyone as well, make sure you get your opinions down in the comments and down the live chat and we'll talk about it. Let's actually get a poll going on this. Has Ten Hag made the right decision to axe Sancho from the squad? Initially, I'm just going to tell you, I think it absolutely is the right decision. If Sancho hasn't turned up to training on time for over a year now, you've kept it quiet, you've protected him from the media, you give him 3 months off last year at a time when he really needed his attackers and he would have needed Sancho. Give him that time off, sent him away with his coaches, was patient with him, gave him a training plan that had the times on it to come in an hour early to try and help him. You've been nothing but good with him, tried every approach you can. This behaviour just continues, he's late, he's not training well, so you get sick of it. And you get asked a question about why Jadon Sancho's not in the squad, and you tell the truth. You are truthful to the media. Didn't say anything with any malice, he literally just said, you know what, he's not trained at the right level to be part of the squad. Sancho that would have been blown over back, I won't even be speaking about it now. If Sancho wouldn't have come out and said anything, that would have blown over and Sancho could have worked hard. He could have had a chat with Ten Hag and said, look, really want to focus, I want to knuckle down, want to be part of this team. The Anthony stuff came out literally 24 hours later. Probably would have been starting for Man United tomorrow if he would have done the right things. Genuinely, I believe that. Ten Hag is willing to give players opportunities if they do the right things. But instead, he kicks up a hissy fit, refuses to apologise and puts a tweet out and doesn't take it down in like over a week. It just screams of immature behaviour, in my opinion, and thinking that you're better than what you are. And do you know what the thing is? He doesn't even have any credit in the bank with Man United because he's not been good for 3 years. I can remember one good performance, and that was against Liverpool. Literally one good performance in 3 years. So I just think the attitude here, I genuinely believe that Jadon Sancho will never, ever reach the top level. And I think he has the talent to. He has the talent to, 100%. But you will never, ever reach the top level when you have that kind of attitude. It's everyone else's fault but mine. It's Ten Hag. He's singling me out. Everybody else's fault apart from you. And I don't like them types of people. Take responsibility for yourself and prove yourself, which Sancho clearly isn't willing to do. Get in the poll as well. Has Ten Hag made the right decision? I'm saying yes on this one. And I couldn't care less if he left at this point. And I did used to really, I had such high hopes for Jadon Sancho because I think talent-wise, he's brilliant. Like, we all saw him play for Dortmund. Talent-wise, he's got all the attributes. He could play for Man United, of course he could. It's up here, it's mentality. He's not got it, and I think this proves it. And, people can say you're wrong, and, you can think that everyone can have a different opinion. We're going to get into it in a second. You're entitled to it. But there's no way on earth Erik ten Hag sat back and thought, you know what, yeah, I'll just single out Jadon Sancho. It's not happened. He's had these problems before. Whenever he's dealt with these problems at Ajax, he's dealt with these problems when it comes to when Rashford was late, he dropped him. Rashford came on and scored, forgotten about. He's had these problems with Garnacho. Didn't get a minute of pre-season. Garnacho didn't come out and write a statement. He got his head down, changed his behaviour, and he's brilliant now. And Ten Hag clearly loves him. Like, it's not just Sancho he's singled out with this. It's just standards that Erik ten Hag expects you to keep. And if you can't keep them, what are you doing at a top club? Keil Robinson says, could they not tear up contract because of this? I don't know. It's disciplinary stuff, isn't it? But what they could do is, I don't know, maybe give him some sort of disciplinary action by docking him some wages for like a week or something because of that statement he put out. But to be honest, it's not the money I'm not bothered about. It's just the behaviour. Like, we chose to give him 350 grand a week. He's not performed for that amount of money. But no matter what money you're on, and you don't act like this towards your manager at Manchester United. It just shouldn't happen. But and we had Rob Dawson on the show a week ago, and he actually did say Erik ten Hag will not back down over his demand for an apology from Jadon Sancho. If Sancho refuses, he's risking his long-term future at Manchester United. Ten Hag wanted apology. Sancho refused to give it. I mean, how petty is this? How petty is this? And Sancho will be training in the reserves and away from the squad until he does so. And, John Murtough and Richard Arnold got involved in this, and there's still been no reconciliation. For me, this is my personal opinion. You don't know unless you're in there. But I think Ten Hag would be willing to work with Sancho, and obviously he'd be punished, but he'd be willing to work with him and reconcile with him if he gave him an apology and started to redeem himself by putting the work in on the training pitch and apologised. I think Sancho's in the headspace of, oh, you shouldn't have said that about me. This person's done this, and you've not been like that with them. You shouldn't have said that about me. I'm not apologising. I'm Jadon Sancho. I feel like that's like the situation we're in. And we've all been in situations, I do believe there's a situation where two people can both have reasons to think different things. But we've all been in that situation where you just kind of got to bite your tongue and apologise, even though you really don't want to. And even if Sancho doesn't think he should apologise, at the end of the day, Erik ten Hag is his boss. Erik ten Hag is his manager. He's not going to be able to get anywhere without, being on the same page as him. It just won't happen. And I'm so glad that Man United are choosing to actually back the manager over this, because we've had times before in the past where player power's worked over the likes of Jose Mourinho. We've seen it with Pogba, players like that. And player power has worked in the past. Now, I think this is like the last throw of the dice for Man United in the sense this manager has to work. He's got standards. We're going to get behind him. He speaks it to the media in a way that Man United probably appreciate as well, whereas Mourinho didn't. Ten Hag is, he does the right things. And they've got behind the manager. And Sancho's not going to get anywhere by kicking his toys out the pram and saying, right, okay then, you know what, I'm going to train with the reserves. What will happen is he won't play for United. He'll probably get a loan move in January. And, what top team's going to want to take someone with attitude problems? There will always be a team, willing to take Jadon Sancho because the talent is brilliant. But what top team is going to want to take Sancho knowing the history of the issues he's had in regards to behaviour? Because there was these reports coming out at Dortmund and Man City as well. So, yeah, someone said Chelsea. I won't be surprised at that. When I say bite your tongue and apologise, it's like, for example, in the United stand, say if, this doesn't happen often, but say if me and Goldbridge, disagreed on something. We disagreed on a topic and I was like, I think it should be like this. And Mark was like, no, I I think it should be like this. And I was like, well, you know, this is how I want it, and this is how it's going to happen. And Mark's like, well, it's not going to happen like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to apologise. And Mark's like, well, sorry, you're not being on the show until you apologise to me. I'm not going to get anywhere. I would never do this, but I would not get anywhere being like, no, you know what, I'm not apologising, it's my way or no way. I wouldn't get anywhere like that. Sometimes, even if you think you're in the right, you've got to apologise to be able to get better and further yourself. And you should always listen and respect to the person that is ahead of you. And Erik ten Hag is his boss. So I don't have sympathy for Sancho in this situation, I'm going to be honest. Paul Woolley says, member for 40 months, I've seen so many people on social media and in here in the chat saying Erik ten Hag needs to go. They are too young to remember the Fergie days. Exactly. And I'm going to be honest with it. I'm going to be honest. I think people are too soft nowadays. Obviously, you know, there's situations where you do have to really kind of take into consideration mental health and everything like that. But I don't think you can use, you know, you can't, it's so hard to decipher what's mental health and what's behaviour issues. And from what we know from the outside looking in, Erik ten Hag, I believe Erik ten Hag and Manchester United as a whole organisation wouldn't have acted this way if it wasn't necessary. And as a footballer, you know, when you're getting paid very, very good wages, one of the top earners at Manchester United, I just don't think there's an excuse for over a year of your career be turning up late and not training hard enough. I just don't think there's an excuse for that. And if there is, then he should be away from the team getting the help that he needs. And that's not happened at the moment. That happened last year. You come back and it's been the same thing. So that's for Manchester United to deal with. I do think people have a very soft attitude, and you know, I think mental strength is important and not everybody has it, but you know, when you're playing for Manchester United, you're not just going to get pampered. You're going to have to put in the hard yards, you're going to have problems, you're going to have struggles, and you know, it's how you deal with that kind of shows you the type of player that you're going to be, in my opinion. But we've had, you know, the usual Jamie O'Hara and Gabby Lahore saying that, you know, Erik ten Hag has treated Jadon Sancho so badly. What Ten Hag's doing to Jadon Sancho is ridiculous. Like, why is he doing this? He should never have called him out. I mean, I seen the clip of Jamie O'Hara this morning, and obviously, respect to their opinions. They're allowed to have it. They've been footballers, so they kind of know how it feels in that situation. Jamie O'Hara said he had it at Wolves, and he was saying, you know, when you're ostracised from the group, there's nothing worse. You feel unwanted. You feel awful. What Ten Hag's done to Jadon Sancho isn't fair. You know, he shouldn't have called him out, and it really, really gets under my skin when people have an opinion on something that goes so wide and they just don't know the full story. And obviously, you know, pundits and everyone, they're entitled to their own opinion, but you don't know the full story. Let's just add a little bit of context and a little bit of backstory onto this. So, Ten Hag never would have called Jadon Sancho out, and he didn't call him out. He told the truth. He's not in the training squad because he's not trained well enough. He never would have done that if Jadon Sancho was training properly in the first place. And that is a standard I expect all Manchester United players to hit from the academy up until the highest paid player in the club. I expect you to hit training levels. So if you don't want to be called out for that, train hard and turn up on time. It's quite simple. If you don't want Erik ten Hag to say you're not in the squad because you've not trained hard enough and you've not turned up on time, then don't do it. You know, we've seen Arteta come out and say players aren't in the squad due to disciplinary reasons before. We've seen Pep Guardiola do it. It happens all the time in football. If you don't want to be called out, then do the work. Second of all, Erik ten Hag literally came out and said Rashford was dropped for disciplinary reasons in the Wolves game. He came on and scored and handled it excellently and did an interview afterwards saying, you know, he's going to set his alarm a little bit earlier, having a bit of a laugh and a joke. That's how you handle them situations. If you're not strong enough to be able to take a little bit of heat, then to me, it kind of shows you know you're in the wrong if you're going to be a little bit annoyed about that. But anyway, with that situation, obviously that happened. Also, this has been going on for over a year. It's not as if it's just happened and Erik ten Hag's been like, you know, Sancho has been late once. I'm going to come out into the media and I'm going to slate him. He didn't even slate him anyway. He literally just said, you know, he's not trained well. Like, what? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But anyway, he has tried to work with him. He's tried to help him. Like Simon Motball says, everyone at Manchester United believes that Erik ten Hag has done everything he can for Sancho. He said he gave him 3 months off. He's worked with him. During that time, the media kept asking questions about Sancho. He didn't say anything about him. Like, he kept quiet. He reintegrated him. Like, it seemed very happy, very amicable. Ten Hag feels like he's done everything he can. This was probably like the last throw of the dice to be like, I wonder if he'll respond to a little bit of, a little bit of harshness potentially in the media. I wonder if that'll get the fire going in his belly and I'll see a different side to Sancho. And Ten Hag was probably very disappointed after everything he's done to try and help him, for him to come out with that statement calling him a liar. No matter what, the disrespect to come out with a statement calling your manager a liar after no matter how good you are, but after you've been nowhere near the level it takes to play for Man United for 3 years, is so out of touch and disrespectful. To me, it makes me think, who do you think you are? Like, genuinely, who do you think you are? So sometimes you just got to take stuff on the chin. And yeah, he's been ostracised from the group and he's not part of the group, and that must feel really bad. As Jamie O'Hara says, it's out of order, he doesn't fit, it's awful. Let's rewind. If Jadon Sancho would have actually, apologised to Ten Hag and worked with him, he would still be in the squad now. We wouldn't be ostracised. Jadon Sancho, all he had to do was apologise. His pride's too big to do that. So I don't think it's anyone's fault but Jadon Sancho's if he's feeling sorry for himself that he's not part of the first team. I think this is kind of, he's had ample opportunities to turn his United career around. Last year when he got, had 3 months off was a brilliant opportunity to come back and kind of, hit the ground running. He might have felt like he's not had the game time, but we were told behind the scenes it's because he's not turning up on time and, he's not training well enough. And then I think this was another opportunity for him to turn around and be like, I'm going to change things, I'm going to get my head down, I'm going to apologise, and I'm going to come back stronger. And again, he's refused to apologise. So I don't think you can blame anyone but him. Colin Felix says, sign Wout on loan as false 9 to mentor Højlund. Absolutely not, Colin. Thanks for the super chat, but absolutely not. But here's another one. Like, Wout Weghorst was nowhere near good enough to play for Man United. He still played last year because Erik ten Hag, he has standards and he worked hard and he obviously trained well. Like, I don't think Wout should be anywhere near Man United's first team squad, but it's not as if Erik ten Hag, it's not as if Jadon Sancho's not good enough. It's all about standards behind the scenes, and I'm so happy to back a manager that upholds them standards because that's where it all begins. Musby TV says, people complaining that Erik ten Hag is disrespecting players. That's what we need. These players need discipline. Ollie was a yes man. This will make them work hard. Too much ego in the squad. Exactly. Also, on this one, everyone in the squad now will be looking around and thinking, I'm not messing about. I'm not going against the manager. I'm not turning up late for training. Like, I don't want to be training with the reserves. I want to be part of this team. Doesn't matter who you are with Erik ten Hag. And it will set a message to the rest of the squad, to the youth players as well. This is how you have to act if you want to play for Manchester United under me. And I think it sends the right message. Also, rewind to when Sancho was dropped from the squad. What message would it have sent to, like, Pellistri if Pellistri's training really hard and turning up on time and having good training sessions, but Sancho got picked ahead of him when he's been late and not trained well? Because he had to pick between one of them two. And Garnacho's obviously going to be in because of, he proved why he should be in when he came off the bench at Arsenal, and he couldn't have another winger on the bench. He needed to kind of vary the bench. So what example would have that set? Ten Hag was kind of backed into a corner, and Jadon Sancho made up Erik ten Hag's mind for him by not doing the right things. And when I talk about double standards as well, like, I just want to compare to, the way the media treat kind of Ten Hag compared to, like, Pep Guardiola, even Arteta. And I wrote down some names. So Pep Guardiola, first things first, he came out in a press conference and labelled Calvin Phillips as overweight. That's why he's not playing. No one batted an eyelid about that. Calvin Phillips didn't come out and write a statement, didn't complain, got his head down. He's still not even in the team. He's probably frustrated. He's not come out with a statement about it, has he? Next up, Cancelo, best fullback for me in the league at the time, and also one of the best fullbacks in Europe. Brilliant player, had the number 7 for Man City, had an argument with Pep Guardiola in training in front of his peers. Pep Guardiola instantly sent him on loan. He's not come back since. And they needed fullbacks at the time. They were desperate for fullbacks. He completely ostracised him from the group, sent him away, straight away, as soon as he could. Nobody says, oh, Pep Guardiola, why is he doing that? It's not fair. Cancelo had credit in the bank as well. He was unbelievable. Sancho's not even got the credit in the bank. Also, let's remember when, I think it was last season, Pep Guardiola started playing Rico Lewis ahead of Walker every single game, because Walker wasn't really adapting to the inverted fullback role that Pep wanted him to play. Did Walker come out and write a statement about how a 17, 18-year-old's getting ahead of him and he's unhappy about it? No, he didn't. He got his head down. He's now Man City captain and he's doing very, very well. He's playing very good under Pep Guardiola. Aubameyang, at Arsenal, he was captain. He was, their leading scorer. All the fans loved him. Didn't do the right things, wasn't turning up on time to training. Arteta took the captaincy off him, got rid of him. Arsenal have been the better squad since. Ozil as well. Ozil had a lot of friends in that, Arsenal training group. I actually thought Ozil was a great player, but he wasn't doing the right things. Arteta got rid. He was probably Arsenal's best player at the time. It's not uncommon for managers to act like this if players aren't, doing the right things and the right behaviours. And top managers, the main contributing factor is attitude, behaviours, and that's exactly what you need. I mean, Ronaldo and Erik ten Hag had their own little disagreement, and I don't want to really compare it to this situation, but when Ronaldo came out and said that young players have got it too easy nowadays, they just have everything, they're not willing to shadow you, they're not willing to put in the work, they're not willing to copy. I think Jadon Sancho comes under that bracket, and I'm not just labelling Jadon Sancho, but that's who I think Ronaldo was probably talking about in that situation, that kind of group of players that I'm on 350 grand a week and playing at Man United, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. Well, you do, because that career can slip away from you very, very quickly. Another example is the difference, and I saw someone tweet this to me, so I wanted to bring it up. Pickford and Onana. Jamie Carragher yesterday. Oh, Onana targeted Maguire in that Dortmund friendly. He was trying to play up to the Man United crowd going and shouting at him. What a load of rubbish. If you've seen Onana play before in the past, you'll see he bollocks his defence all the time. Like, he has a go at players on the pitch all the time. That's what he does as a keeper. He has standards, and a lot of keepers have that quirky character and they play out from the back, and that's the way. I have no issues with keepers being vocal, by the way, none at all. But Jordan Pickford shouts, very vocal, constantly having a go at his defence. I've never seen him be labelled as targeting players. A lot of people label Pickford as mentality monster, should be England's starting number one in the media. So what's the difference here? I guarantee if Onana was having a go at Bruno Fernandes, no one would say anything in the English media. But because it was an English player, suddenly, there's stuff to talk about. I also think, in the media, if this was, I don't know, Pellistri instead of Sancho, or even Anthony instead of Sancho, I don't think Jamie O'Hara would be sat there saying, oh, poor Anthony, poor Pellistri. I do think there is an English bias in the media sometimes, and, that's the way it is. Matt says, it's always confused me why City let such talent like Sancho leave, but now it all makes sense. I hate to say it, but that team never miss with transfers. Yeah, Matt, I agree with you on that one. But anyway, I wanted to talk about that because it was frustrating. Also, a little bit that I missed out before. Not sure there is much way of a back, and there is not much of a way back for Sancho after refusing to apologise. This is from Alex Crook. He said he was told that Manchester United are very taken aback by his lack of contrition, which is remorse. The club believe that Ten Hag has only ever tried to help him reach his potential. Told many of Sancho's teammates are also dismayed by his actions. So Alex Crook there basically saying that, some of the teammates are a bit frustrated with what he's doing, and also Man United back Ten Hag, and they think that he won't have a way back unless he apologises. Sancho's refusing to do so, basically what we're going to talk about, and they're very taken aback why he's not remorseful, and also they believe that Ten Hag's only ever tried to help him, and that's what I believe as well. And when people say, he's individualising Sancho, I saw someone say today, it's very interesting, Man United's top paid players from last season, Ronaldo was on like 550, gone. De Gea was on 375, gone. Next in line was Sancho, 350 a week. Looks like he's gone now. I do actually think that's a coincidence, and they're all different situations. It's not as if Ten Hag didn't like De Gea as a person. I don't think he never said anything. he's never said anything about his mentality. He always played him. I just think it was a different style he wanted. He always gave David De Gea a lot of respect, actually, in the sense of when he spoke about him. The way it ended wasn't great, but I also think United handled that in the wrong way as well. With Ronaldo, I think it was an issue of, Ronaldo thought, because obviously he's one of the best players that's ever walked the planet, he should have maybe played more, and they disagreed on that sense. Ten Hag obviously goes back to standards, no one's bigger than the club. That kind of just didn't work out. But with Sancho, I generally think Ten Hag would have been willing to, we heard reports, he was willing to keep Sancho and work with him. I think he would have been willing to work with Sancho if he had the right attitude, but he's just not shown that. And when people say he's individualised him, here's some examples for you. I'm just going to quickly go through them because we probably talked about it a lot. But Wan-Bissaka named Lindelof and Malacia ahead of him as his right backs in the presser. I'll never forget it. Told he was going to get sold in January, wasn't part of the squad, completely out of the group. Got his head down, trained hard. I remember when it was the World Cup when Wan-Bissaka started coming back in. Ten Hag was obviously training with players that weren't going to the World Cup, and then you started to see Wan-Bissaka come back into the fold. Wan-Bissaka clearly showed Ten Hag he was willing to work hard, do whatever it takes, didn't once leak to the press, kept quiet, doing brilliantly. Garnacho didn't get a minute in pre-season. We all know how that turned out, turned it around. Rashford, though it's not just Sancho that's had these issues, it's just how you choose to deal with these issues. And I always think there's a way back. It's how you choose to deal with them yourself, and I just don't think Sancho's dealt with it in the right way. Charlie Mack says, no form of apology will rectify what Sancho has done. You cannot undermine the manager in any walk of life. He can't be allowed to play another minute. And we have International 2675 saying Erik ten Hag needs to direct his energy into winning games. Well, he can do that when everything's sorted in the squad. And we're going to get onto that in a second. And hopefully, with Sancho out of the mix now, there's just a core group of players that have positivity and are willing to do everything for the badge and can get behind the manager and work together and finally kickstart our season, which needs to happen. He's been so unlucky. He's been plagued with injuries. All this, going on behind the scenes of Anthony, kind of out now. Sancho as well, causing issues. The Greenwood situation, he's had so much to deal with, and the injuries don't help. But also, I saw something the other day. Half of Erik ten Hag's signings have been loans or free transfers. 8 out of 16. That is embarrassing. When everyone says Erik ten Hag's been backed, yeah, he's been given money, but half of them have been free signings or loans. It just shows, doesn't it, really? But let's talk about, build up to the presser, injuries, Brighton. Let's talk about it. So, Goldbridge actually gave me a little bit of a message, and he told me that I could say on the show that he was told last night that Ten Hag is determined to start Amrabat and Højlund and get the season kick-started with players he wants and to move away from all of their negativity. Love this from Erik ten Hag because, we need positivity around this team. We need players that want to play for this badge, and we need to move away from this negativity. It's just been story after story after story after story negatively. And Amrabat and Højlund, really exciting signings in my opinion, and to see them play at Old Trafford, both getting the Old Trafford debut, would be absolutely brilliant. And I think it would give that crowd the pump that it needs. It'd also give, it would get the crowd riled up. It also gives the team a bit of a boost. You've got new signings in that Erik ten Hag, is excited about. That'd be great. We're not sure whether they will because I think Højlund's ready to start. Amrabat, we're not sure on his injury or whether it's just precaution. We'll hear about him more in the presser today. Hopefully he can start because that would be a massive, massive, massive bonus for us. Paul Lucas says, Beth, what is your lineup for Brighton? I'll tell you in a second my lineup for Brighton. And everyone get your picks in as well. Get your picks in the chat. But yeah, I'm excited to see Amrabat and Højlund. I think they will start, or they'll at least have a part to play. If not start, they'll come off the bench. So I'm excited to see that. Also, this presser, everyone, is going to be massive. It's going to be huge. If you ever think there's a presser where journalists can't go wrong with the questions they can ask Ten Hag, it is today. I expect a very juicy press conference. First time Erik ten Hag's been able to speak to, the media since the Jadon Sancho stuff. There's so many topics. You can ask about Amrabat, Martinez's injury. Obviously, there's going to be so many questions aimed at Sancho. Anthony situation. There's just so many questions that can be asked. Who's going to play on the right wing? Whether Palestri's got a chance, Garnacho, Eric the midfield, Mason Mount's injury. There's so many different questions. It's going to be so juicy. I honestly cannot wait to watch it. I think Ten Hag will probably bat like a lot of them away. It'll already completely be PR'd up over what to say about Sancho. You know, United have probably been practicing that all morning over what he's going to say about Sancho, but it's going to be very, very interesting to watch, and I honestly can't wait for that for sure. I think it's going to be brilliant. But moving on to, I wrote down a little note here, and we are going to talk about Brighton. And again, we're at the start of the season, literally just a few games in, and I already was thinking about how many players need to go next summer. And it's so sad to kind of think about that. I mean, what other club has spin coming out saying about players you're going for next year? In the likes of, you know, when we got linked to Evan Ferguson. I mean, I saw Mark show in the studio. It was hilarious. Like, no other club does that to kind of create that spin. But I was thinking about all the players that need to leave. And I wrote a list. Maguire, obviously, it's an obvious he needs to go. And, I mean, I know there was a lot about Maguire yesterday. Yeah. I'll hold back on what I think about that situation. But it's... he needs to go. I don't think he can blame anyone but himself for not taking that West Ham move, to be honest with you, but he needs to go. Varane, I think, has a question mark over him. Absolutely love the guy, and I think he's a top quality defender, but I can't be bothered with someone that's not going to be consistent in his team and is constantly injured. Not his fault, but his injuries are frustrating. Obviously, Williams needs to go. He's on loan. Hopefully that'll end. Donny van der Beek, why is he still here? That should have been someone that we should have been maybe, even though he's a lovely guy, should have probably put our foot down on a little bit more and forced a move for him. McTominay, not going to get the game time, especially if Amrabat comes in. He needs to go. And I think McTominay, I think he's being wasted on United's bench. I think he could be a very good player for a team like West Ham. I think he really could. So I think he needs to go. Martial, again, like him, but he's just constantly injured. Can't be bothered with it. Though I like his attitude of turning up for training 4 hours early. I like that kind of attitude to kind of, you know, show Eric Ten Hag he should be in the team. But no, seriously, Martial's injury is just... Unless somehow he sorts him out this season, he needs to go, and obviously Sancho as well needs to go. Like, there's no way back for him. I couldn't care less if Sancho left the football club right now. And I've always had this thing about Sancho is where I've not wanted to let him go because I've always thought, well, we could get the Dortmund Sancho. There is a player there, and I don't want him to go to another team and be that good. And we've missed out, but I'm past the point of caring now with Jadon Sancho, to be honest with you. But let's talk about Brighton. Apparently there's some problems with the mics today, guys. I'm sorry about this. We have seemed to have a few issues with them recently. We'll get onto it. There's nothing I can really do now. The producer's trying his best to sort it out, so sorry about that. But I want to talk about Brighton. Ricky's just texted me. Ricky's just texted me saying, do me a favour, love, and let me know after the presser about injury news, particularly about Amrabat and Martial, I suppose. Interested to know. I will do, Ricky. I will do. I'll give you the update. But let's talk about Brighton. And we can obviously have more inclination on who's probably going to start in this team after we've had the press conferences. But let's do our starting 11 together. Let's vote in the chat. We'll just get the chat going. We don't need to do polls because I'll move on it quite quickly. But I'll ask the chat on this one. We'll go for our starting 11. So obviously in goal, we're going to go with Onana. There is literally no questions about that. Onana goes in goal and I'm excited to see him. Also, the poll on has Ten Hag made the right decision to axe Sancho? 87% yes, 12% say no. So I'm glad the majority of the chat are on the same page there and thinking, you know, this just can't happen. There is always going to be them people that a Player FC can't stand Player FC, if I'm going to be honest. And there is going to be people that think, you know, we should hear more of the full story and are going to back Jadon Sancho. That's absolutely fine. But I'm glad to see the majority of us are backing the manager on this one, and we need to back Ten Hag. And this is an interesting comment from Sing Games. Beth, Maguire trains well and turns up early every training session. He deserves to start. I'm shocked he's not the first name on the team sheet. One thing I will say about Maguire is what he lacks in ability to play for Man United. You can't say anything about, you know, he's not brought out a statement. And this should be the obvious. Like, you shouldn't get a round of applause for not bringing out a statement for not playing when you're not good enough. Like, I'm not being funny. But he's not brought out a statement. He's worked hard. You know, he does train well. And, you know, he had the captaincy taken off him. That probably was difficult. And you've not really heard anything come out. And that, for me, doesn't deserve a round of applause because that should be the obvious at a top club. But because of the Sancho situation, it makes you appreciate kind of players being like that a little bit. So, yeah, let's get on to our starting 11 anyway. Let's try not to get a little bit more distracted, but obviously get your get your chats in down below. My life experience, Ten Hag is the third manager who's tried to bring the best out of Sancho and it's not worked. Yeah, interesting. Apparently there's a Luckhurst tweet as well. Let's have a look at that one. We will get onto our starting 11 at some point, guys. See if I can see a Luckhurst tweet. Apparently there's been one. So Samuel Luckhurst, Jadon Sancho is open to leaving Manchester United in January transfer window if he remains marooned at the club until the new year. Slow sports news. I don't want to do that impression, but obviously he's not going to want to stay and just be not a part of the squad. I think it's quite an obvious one, but it's good to kind of get that kind of set in stone. Sancho is open to leaving Man United in January transfer window if he remains marooned at the club. You would expect that. Like, no player's going to want to sit in the background. He's probably going to want a fresh start, but how many fresh starts, is he going to need to have to kind of kick on to reach the potential? And it's such a shame because he's so talented. I really do believe he's a top quality player. But I think the best thing for him to do is leave in January, but it's probably going to be on a loan that we're paying half his wages. Unless someone like Chelsea's stupid enough to come and buy him, which I hope they are. But yeah. Anyway, let's do our starting 11. So in goal, it's Onana. Right back, it's obviously going to be Wan-Bissaka. There's no arguments about that. Two centre-backs. Lindelof will definitely play because Varane's still injured. I'm hoping and praying that Martinez is fit enough to play. I think he is. I think it was just precaution. I think Martinez will play. So I'm going to go with Leacher at the back. And then left back, obviously there's a debate between Reguilon or Dalot, but is it really a debate? For me, it couldn't be more obvious that Dalot starts, but comments in below, anybody want Reguilon to start over Dalot? Because, let's be honest, it's got to be Dalot for me. I think he's been our best player the last couple of games. He's been brilliant. So Dalot every day. I've literally not seen one person say play Reguilon. So yeah, we're going to go with Dalot. Midfield, this is where it gets interesting because Eriksen has been very good the last couple of games. That goal from Odegaard wasn't great defensively from him, but he's been decent in that midfield. So let's talk about it. Casemiro, obviously going to play. So Casemiro comes in. The next thing is Bruno is obviously going to play. Is he going to play on the right? We don't know. But I'm going to do my starting 11. And in my starting 11 and in your guys, because I know nobody likes Bruno on the right. With Ten Hag, he probably will be on the right. But for us, Bruno plays in midfield. So Casemiro and Bruno are nailed on. Who is the other player? Is it Eriksen? Do you throw in Amrabat? Personally, for me, I think it's really harsh on Eriksen to drop him. But I would go with Amrabat because I really want to see Amrabat play in that midfield. Brighton are a tough team. Amrabat, I think, will be needed, and I want to see him debut. So I'm going to go with Amrabat. Does anybody disagree on that? Casemiro, Amrabat, Bruno. Amrabat, Bruno, Casemiro. Someone said Cassie, Amrabat, and Eriksen. Interesting. You want to drop Bruno from that? I'm not dropping Bruno, and I'm sitting here. So I think we're going to go with Amrabat on that. So we'll do a midfield three of Amrabat, Casemiro, and Bruno. And if anyone saw the Amrabat video I did, kind of talking about where he's going to fit in this team and where he's going to play and why he could transform our midfield, I wouldn't be surprised if, him and Casemiro play as obviously a double six with Bruno playing further forward, like a little bit like a pivot, but they take turns in dropping in and dropping back because Casemiro is good going forward and Amrabat's not the type of player that's going to score you goals or really get you many assists, but he's great at keeping the ball and just keeping it moving. And he's good at collecting it off the back four as well. So whereas Casemiro, that's probably a weakness for him, and he can be sloppy in our defensive third, but good in our attacking third, but great at breaking up plays and, tackling anticipation. I think you could see a situation where Amrabat's picking the ball up from deep, Casemiro's kind of the transitioner, and Bruno's a little bit further ahead. So you can see him kind of swapping and changing. Fernandes is untouchable, says full house movies. Yeah, he's captain. He's going to play. And I thought he was very good against Arsenal as well, Bruno, to be honest with you. Could have been better in certain situations, but I thought he was decent. Anyway. Oh, was it? No, it was Forest. Scrap that. It was Forest. I thought Bruno was very, very good. I thought against Arsenal he was decent and he probably should have got the winning assist for that Garnacho goal, but he has to play. There's no doubt in my mind. Bruno's first name on the team sheet for me every time. Right, front three. This is where it gets interesting. Trigger says that Casemiro sloppy on defence. No, he's not sloppy defensively. Tackling, great. Anticipation, great. He's sloppy with the ball at his feet. Like, he can get caught in our defensive third. You know, when we're bringing the ball out from the back. That's what I meant. Not sloppy in defence. Sloppy, you know, in our third when we're bringing it out from the back. He can get caught sometimes. That's what I meant on that one. But front three. So I think there's no doubts for everyone that Rashford starts on the left, apart from Ricky. Rashford starts on the left. I just don't think there's any kind of debate about that. Martial or Højlund up front. Wouldn't be surprised if Ten Hag starts Martial, to be honest with you. But for me, Højlund starts every day of the week. I thought when he came on against Arsenal, he really kind of showed what we're missing in that striking department as a centre-forward, proper number 9. I think Højlund has to start, gives defence troubles and just looks like he wants to throw himself about, really pacey. For me, he has to start. On the right-hand side is a big question mark for everybody here. Who starts on the right? And I'm going to say it again. For me, it's got to be Pellistri. Don't think he will. But I just think it's now or never for Pellistri. Like, what other opportunities is he going to get? He's got prime opportunity. Ahmad's injured. Sancho's been oxidized. What's the word? Right. Sancho's been cut from the squad. Right. So Sancho's been cut from the squad. Ahmad's still injured, and Anthony is on annual leave. If he can't get into the team now, he's now or never. Like, he's 21. This is when you should be kind of getting in there. I always think if you go past 21, 22 without being able to get into the first team, you know, you're not going to get there. So I think yeah, a lot of people having a laugh about that. Having a laugh at that. That's one. Ostracised, not oxidised, ostracised from the squad. Getting my words out. So it's now or never for Pellistri. He has to get a chance. Like, I don't think there's going to be any other prime opportunity for him to come in. Like, you know, in what other instance is he going to get this opportunity? For Uruguay as a starter, I think he's a good player. We had Gus Poyet in deadline day, and he was saying the problem Pellistri has is Anthony. Anthony's not there anymore. Like, it's time for him to shine, and I honestly think he's capable. I would start him. I don't think Ten Hag will. But even if he doesn't start this game, Pellistri, he's got the opportunity to stake a claim for next game because, you know, you've got Sancho and Anthony going to be out for a while now. So he's got a couple of games to come into it. Even if he doesn't start, I expect him to come on at like the 60th minute or something like that, and he's still got a chance to kind of stake his claim. But for me, Pellistri has to start, and I would start him. I think Bruno will go on the right, and he'll play a midfield 3 of Casemiro, Amrabat and Eriksen. But I would really want Pellistri to start on the right, and I think he's a fan favourite in the sense of I think everyone in here wants him to play on the right, or I won't say everyone, but the majority of people. So I think you've got to play him. I don't think Ten Hag will, but I would like to see him, and I think Højlund will really benefit off having Pellistri there as well. Højlund is a number 9 that's going to feed off creativity, feed off chances. Pellistri will constantly be looking to get the ball to Højlund. He's creative. He beats a player and he crosses it in. He has intricate little passes. I think he can work well with Bruno. So for Højlund's sake, I think Pellistri is the right option to go for. So I really would like him to play. If it's not Højlund, I would actually go with Garnacho or Rashford there and play Højlund, Garnacho and Rashford. I don't want to do Bruno on the right. We need Bruno in the middle in this game. But we'll see what Erik Ten Hag does. On that one, lastly, a lot of people saying Mount on the right. Depends. I don't think Mount's fit enough for this game. I think Mount's back for Bayern from what I've heard, but this is another one where we'll get Erik Ten Hag's opinions on this in his presser later on and whether Mount's available to play. But Mount will probably come in and do that role. But again, there's definitely more opportunity with Sancho and Anthony out the team for Pellistri to come in and do this. And I actually put a tweet out yesterday saying, you know, it is now or never. I also saw something really interesting that I wanted to bring up before I ended the show. And let me get it up. Let me get it up here because I wanted to bring this in before we finish the show off. Okay. In the last 3 transfer windows, we've bought a centre-back under the last 3 transfer windows, we've bought a centre-back and a right winger. And going into next summer, we need a centre-back and a right winger. Like, you genuinely cannot write it. You genuinely can't write it. Last year, Martinez and Anthony. The year before that, it was Varane and Sancho. And the year before that, it was Maguire and Dan James. The last 3 summer transfer windows, we have bought a centre-back and a right winger, and we still need a centre-back and a right winger going into the next one. Like, these are just positions that we've had problems with it, United, especially the right wing. Jesus, the right wing has been an issue for us for a while, but I think it's time to maybe stop spending absolutely massive money and, you know, get a scouting team in that can go and scout a really good little find for us and go on from there. I do think Anthony will come back, and I think he will be our right winger for the future. I think Anthony will do that, but for now we do need a right winger and a centre back, and Varane. We wouldn't need one if Varane wasn't injury prone, but unfortunately he is. But I just find that very kind of eye opening. And really, Man United should be looking at them and thinking, what are we doing? We've bought in them positions heavily. 80 mil on Maguire, 90 mil on Anthony, 72 mil on Sancho. You know, we've bought in them positions heavily and we still need them going into next summer. It's something that needs to be addressed, to be honest with you. But anyway, guys, let's end the show there. It's been a good one. Needed to get a lot off our chests, I think. And do you know what? I am so excited going into this press conference, and I'm just excited football is back. Højlund's going in my FBL team, anyone else? And I'm excited for Erik ten Hag. I think this Brighton game, it can go one or two ways. We lose, and there's massive uproar. We win, and it's a kickstart to the season that we needed, and we could probably go on a really good run, especially looking at the fixtures that we've got in place and the fixtures that we've got coming up. So I think it's kind of a really big game for Man United. Sorry, I've just seen a little bit of news come up there. It's a huge game for Manchester United, and it's make or break, I think. We've got to win this game and push through, and we can have our start to the season, and hopefully the team is together and we get behind the manager, and let's just go out there and win that game, everyone. But make sure you stay tuned for the press conference coming up at 1:30 today. Around that time anyway, Mark will be doing that live on the United Stand reacting. Can't wait for that. And get your score predictions in for Brighton versus Manchester United tomorrow. I'm going with 2-1 to Manchester United, Højlund and Bruno goals. Let's get excited for it. Brighton are a great team, but United can win this game, especially at home. But thank you, everyone. Make sure you have a lovely day. I'm out tonight. We'll be on the forum tomorrow. And let's enjoy the weekend, and hopefully United have a good result. We can watch Match of the Day in peace, and we can move on and have some positivity. But have a good day, everyone. Stay tuned. Hit a like on the video, and I'll see you on the next one.